Isn't that illegal?
I'm going to give you a few assumptions, and bear in mind that these are Christian beliefs, not mine, so don't quote me out of context. Number one, the Bible is 100% true and accurate, and it's the Word of God, so that's why it's accurate and true. Number two, the Great Flood, brought down by God to cleanse the earth, killed everybody except the people and animals in the ark. So, therefore, all the fossils that we find are evidence of animals killed by the flood and not evidence of evolution. Number three, evolution is false because there are gaps in the fossil record. Some species that evolutionists expect to be there simply aren't found as fossils, therefore evolution cannot be true. So they're the assumptions. So, if the Bible is true, if the flood really happened, if the flood created all the fossils, and the fact that missing fossils mean that evolution is false, where are all the unicorn fossils? Because, amazingly enough, the Bible mentions unicorns. So if gaps in the fossil record prove that evolution is false, then gaps in the fossil record prove that the Bible is lying. Or, if I'm being more generous, the Bible is not 100% accurate, which Christians believe that it is. You can't have it both ways. According to the Bible, unicorns lived at the same time as man. But wasn't everything killed by the flood? So where are all the unicorn fossils? Now, the explanation for not finding unicorn fossils would be that fossils are difficult to create and they only happen under certain conditions, and this makes them rare. Some animals never lived in conditions where it was possible for fossils to form. But you can't use that argument, because this is the explanation that evolutionists give for not finding fossils. Fossils are rare because it's so incredibly improbable that any animal will ever become a fossil. So the very same arguments that Christian creationists give to discredit evolution can also be used to discredit the Bible. If everything was killed in the Great Flood, we should we not, be finding unicorn fossils? Now, obviously, Christian apologists will try and get out of that one by saying, well, unicorn, it wasn't a correct translation from the Hebrew. We don't think it was really a unicorn now. No shit, Sherlock. But here's another point. Let's accept that the unicorns in the Bible aren't actual unicorns. The Bible also mentions dragons, and Christian creationists will say, well, the dragons actually refer to dinosaurs. That's fair enough. That's a easy way of interpreting dinosaurs, calling them dragons. So creationists believe that man and dinosaurs once walked the earth at the same time before the flood. So Noah loaded up 2 sheep, 2 goats, 2 elephants, and then look down the list, here we are, 2 Tyrannosaurus rexes, 2 velociraptors, 2 pterodactyls, etc. Bullshit! Sorry about that. Anyway, let's assume that all the other dinosaurs were killed by the flood, the ones that didn't get on the ark. So there would have been hundreds, if not thousands, of each one of the many types of dinosaurs that we know about, because we found fossils of those dinosaurs. So where are all the fossils? Why do we more often than not in fact, have only one example of a particular dinosaur species found in the fossils? If they all died at once in the flood, shouldn't there be hundreds of each of the different kinds, if not thousands? Most animals live in packs or family groups. They have to, because they have to find each other to reproduce. So we should be finding lots of them, surely. But we don't, because the flood is a fantasy. It's rubbish. If man walked with dinosaurs, how come we don't find human fossils with dinosaurs? We find ancient human remains, but they're not what you call fossils. Fossil bones are turned almost into rock over millions of years. Human bones that we find aren't the same. They haven't been subjected to millions of years to turn into what we call true fossils. This is why you should never listen to Christians who talk about evolution. The arguments they give for doubting the process of evolution can be used in exactly the same way to falsify the Bible. If gaps in the fossil record prove that evolution is wrong, they also prove that the accounts of the Bible flood are wrong. Because if the Bible is true, there should be millions of fossils, pile upon pile upon pile of fossils. Because if all the animals died under the same conditions, under the flood, they should all have become fossils. Because they're all in the same position, or the same location, with the same conditions. So if there's only one fossil example of a particular species, where are all the others? And the answer is this. The Bible flood never happened. Fossils are scarce. And there are gaps in the fossil record simply because fossilization is so incredibly unlikely to happen when an animal dies. In fact, the chances of it happening are much, much bigger than winning the lottery. The conditions have to be absolutely right and absolutely extraordinary for an animal to become a fossil. And that's why there are gaps in the fossil record. That's why, even if unicorns existed, we probably won't find any fossils of them, because chances are they were living in a place where fossils weren't formed, because the conditions weren't right for that. Think of it this way. Assume that life evolved gradually over billions of years. How many billions of generations of fossils would we have to find for there to be absolutely no gaps at all in the fossil record? We would have to find fossils of every single animal that ever lived. And guess what? If we found fossils of every single animal that ever lived, creationists would say, aha! That is evidence for the flood. That proves that the Bible is true because all the animals were killed and we've found them all. So, you're on a losing streak trying to argue with that. You can't argue with the creationists, as I've said before. So just remember, this is the same Bible that believes in unicorns, walking on water, trumpets making city walls fall down, and don't forget what they're prophesying will happen includes locusts shaped like horses with long hair, big teeth, wearing crowns. That's also in the Bible. Enough said.
Isn't that illegal?
Censor your kids' ideas. Censor your child's inspiration. Censor all that. Expect a really heavy return spring, because you know what? That kid's going to turn her on you, and you're never, ever going to have a part of his life again.
Casting off the chains of the world.
But enough about me.